Many people spend years learning to trust themselves. They meditate, they become more aware of their thoughts, they learn to listen to intuition instead of fear. Gradually, life begins to feel quieter, less reactive, more spacious. And yet something curious often remains. Whenever an important decision appears, the old pressure quietly returns. A relationship, a career change, a move, a difficult conversation. Suddenly it feels as though everything depends on choosing correctly, as though somewhere there must be one perfect path, one perfect answer, one decision that finally removes uncertainty forever. Even after years of spiritual growth, the mind often continues searching for certainty. It simply changes where it looks. Instead of asking other people, it asks intuition. Instead of following external authority, it searches for an internal authority. But beneath both approaches, the same question quietly survives. What should I do? And perhaps that question has never been the problem. Perhaps life has never been asking you to discover the one correct answer. Perhaps it has never been withholding the future until you make the perfect choice. Perhaps it has been inviting you into something far simpler and far more alive. Not a better way of predicting life, but a completely different relationship with guidance itself. The search for guidance often feels deeply spiritual. It appears wise, responsible, conscious. But beneath that search, something much older is usually operating. Long before the mind began asking for guidance, the nervous system learned to seek certainty. As children, certainty often meant safety. Knowing what was expected reduced conflict. Predicting other people's reactions helped us avoid pain. Finding the right answer became a way of protecting ourselves. Over time, this survival strategy became so familiar that it no longer felt like protection. It simply felt like life. Every decision carried weight. Every uncertainty demanded resolution. Every mistake seemed to confirm that we should have chosen differently. The nervous system quietly concluded that if it could just become wise enough, careful enough, aware enough, life would finally become safe. So seeking continued, not because we lacked intelligence, but because the body still associated uncertainty with danger. This is why spiritual growth can sometimes become another version of the same pattern. The external authority begins to disappear. We stop looking to parents, teachers, experts, society. Instead, we begin looking inward. We ask intuition. We wait for signs. We search for inner knowing. At first, this feels like tremendous freedom. And in many ways, it is. Learning to trust intuition is an important movement away from external dependence. But for many people, something subtle happens. The old structure survives. Only the authority changes. Instead of fearing another person's opinion, we begin fearing that we might misunderstand intuition. Instead of worrying about disappointing others, we worry about missing the signal. Instead of asking, what do they think I should do? We quietly begin asking, what is intuition telling me to do? The nervous system is still organized around finding certainty before it feels safe enough to move. Intuition simply becomes another authority, another system to interpret correctly, another source of reassurance, another attempt to eliminate uncertainty before life unfolds. This is why even highly conscious people can still feel exhausted by decision-making. Not because intuition is unreliable, but because the body is still relating to guidance as something that must provide guarantees. The deeper issue was never the quality of your decisions. It was never a lack of wisdom. It was never an inability to hear guidance. The deeper issue was the identity that quietly believed it was responsible for managing life, responsible for preventing every mistake, responsible for controlling every outcome. As long as that identity remains at the center of experience, guidance becomes another management strategy. The body stays organized around controlling experience instead of participating in it. And perhaps this is the beginning of the next stage of maturation, not becoming better at finding guidance, but discovering that life has never been asking you to manage it in the first place. As long as guidance is treated like information, life quietly becomes a puzzle that must be solved. Every decision feels as though it has a right answer waiting to be discovered. Every experience becomes evidence. If things work out, we assume we listened correctly. If they don't, we wonder where we misunderstood. Life becomes a continuous evaluation. Was that the right choice? Did I miss the sign? Should I have waited? Should I have acted sooner? The mind constantly looks backward, trying to judge the quality of yesterday's guidance while simultaneously looking forward, hoping the next answer will finally remove uncertainty. Without realizing it, we stop living, we begin managing. Experience itself becomes secondary to our interpretation of it. Instead of fully meeting each moment, we continually compare reality with the version we imagined should have happened. This creates subtle resistance, not because life is resisting us, but because we are quietly resisting life. We keep trying to stand outside the unfolding long enough to determine whether it is unfolding correctly. Yet life has never worked that way. No decision ever arrives with complete information. No path reveals itself all at once. Every movement changes the landscape from which the next movement emerges. Each conversation changes future conversations. Each relationship changes both people involved. Each success changes your capacity. Each disappointment changes your understanding. Every action reshapes the conditions from which life continues. Reality is not static, it is alive, it is continuously responding. This is why no amount of analysis can fully prepare you for what comes next. Life is not a fixed destination waiting to be discovered. It is a living conversation, and conversations cannot be solved. They can only be participated in. As embodiment deepens, something remarkable begins to change. You stop expecting guidance to arrive as complete instructions. Instead, you begin noticing something much quieter. The next movement simply becomes obvious. Not because you have calculated it, not because you have finally eliminated uncertainty, but because you are completely here. Guidance begins appearing less as thoughts and more as timing. You call someone at exactly the right moment without planning it. A conversation naturally opens where previously there was resistance. An opportunity appears because you were present enough to notice it. A decision emerges almost before thinking has time to interfere. There is no dramatic revelation, no voice explaining the future, only a quiet responsiveness that continually meets what is actually here. This is where flow begins to change its meaning. Earlier in life, flow felt like a special state. It appeared during creativity, during deep meditation, during moments when everything seemed to come together. Then it disappeared. But eventually, something far more stable emerges. Flow is no longer an experience you enter. It becomes the way life naturally moves when there is nothing inside you interrupting it. There is still complexity. There are still unexpected challenges. There are still moments that require courage, patience, and adaptation. But the friction begins to disappear. The nervous system is no longer divided between trying to control life and trying to participate in it. Participation itself becomes the intelligence. Decisions begin happening inside movement instead of before movement. Insight arrives as responsiveness rather than prediction. Action and stillness begin arising from the same quiet source. Guidance is no longer something outside yourself that must be interpreted correctly. It becomes the intelligence already expressing itself through perception, through movement, through relationship, through timing, through the simple willingness to remain fully present with whatever life is becoming. Perhaps this is what maturation has always been leading toward. Not becoming better at receiving guidance, but discovering that guidance has never been separate from the life already living itself through you. There comes a point where the entire relationship with guidance begins to change. Not because you become more intuitive, not because you finally learn the perfect way to trust yourself, but because the nervous system no longer believes it must control life before it can participate in it. This is a profound shift. From the outside, very little appears different. You still make decisions. You still encounter uncertainty. You still adapt when circumstances change. But inside, everything feels lighter. The pressure to get life right begins to dissolve. The need to constantly predict what comes next gradually softens. The habit of evaluating every experience starts losing its momentum. Presence itself begins to feel sufficient. This is not passivity. It is not resignation. It is not the belief that nothing matters, nor is it another technique of letting go. Even letting go can become another strategy of the mind, another attempt to manufacture trust, another effort to arrive at the correct spiritual state. But embodiment does not require creating trust. It reveals what naturally happens when the body no longer organizes itself around protection. As regulation stabilizes, life no longer feels like something standing opposite you. It becomes something moving with you. Action begins arising naturally from the circumstances themselves, not from endless internal debate. You notice yourself speaking when words are needed, and remaining silent when they are not. You notice yourself acting without forcing momentum, and resting without feeling guilty. Correction happens just as naturally. There is no collapse into self-judgment, no long period of wondering whether you failed. Life simply adjusts, the way a tree naturally bends toward light, the way a river effortlessly changes course around a stone. Nothing is personal, nothing needs defending, nothing needs to become a story. This is why guidance gradually stops feeling like something you consult. Earlier in the journey, guidance often feels separate. You pause, you listen, you ask inwardly, you wait for clarity. These are beautiful stages of maturation. They help loosen dependence on external authority. But eventually, something even quieter emerges. Guidance no longer arrives before life, it arrives as life. The movement itself becomes the knowing. Walking becomes guidance. Speaking becomes guidance. Listening becomes guidance. Waiting becomes guidance. Even not knowing becomes guidance, because every moment is already participating in the intelligence that once seemed hidden somewhere else. There is still doing, but there is far less of the one constantly monitoring the doing, far less internal commentary asking, "Am I getting this right?" Far less effort spent trying to stay aligned. Alignment is simply what remains when the struggle to manufacture alignment comes to rest. The body begins trusting movement itself, not because it knows where every step will lead, but because it has discovered that life has been responding intelligently all along. Perhaps this has been the quiet transformation beneath every stage of awakening, not becoming someone who knows exactly what to do, but becoming transparent enough that life no longer needs to tell you. It simply lives itself through you, one unforced moment at a time. Perhaps the deepest maturity has never been learning how to hear guidance more clearly. Perhaps it has been discovering that there is no longer anyone standing apart from it. For so long, it seemed as though life was something happening in front of you, a future waiting to be understood, a path waiting to be revealed, a mystery waiting to be solved. But perhaps life has never been withholding answers. Perhaps it has simply been waiting for the searcher to become quiet enough to notice that the conversation never stopped. Perhaps every experience has always been guidance, not because it explained the future, but because it invited a deeper participation in this moment. What once felt like uncertainty begins to feel like openness. What once felt like risk begins to feel like aliveness. What once demanded careful interpretation becomes quiet responsiveness. You no longer need life to promise where the road will end. You simply discover that each step reveals the next one with remarkable precision, not through certainty, but through presence. Perhaps guidance was never pointing you toward a different life. Perhaps it has always been the intelligence already breathing you, already moving you, already meeting each moment before thought has time to organize it. Perhaps this has been the hidden movement of awakening all along, not becoming someone who knows more, not becoming someone who trusts more, but slowly relaxing the one who believed life depended upon them, until what remains is effortless participation, a life no longer managed, but lived. And perhaps freedom begins the moment the question quietly changes, no longer, what should I do, but simply, what is life expressing through me now?